Hello, hope everyone's doing well. My name is Lakshay Garg, and today I am going to give my informative speech on single parenthood. In this presentation, I am going to highlight the key differences between the effects of having a single mother versus a single father as a parent. And in this speech, we're going to look at the general effects of having a single parent. I'm going to dive deeper into specifics for having a single mother and having a single father, and in the end try to put it all together and drive a conclusion out of it. Well, to begin with, while I was doing my research, I came across an interesting stat by the Bowling Green State University titled First Divorce Rate in the U.S. by Race. It was published in 2019, and it is based upon NSFMR analysis of the U.S. Census Bureau, which states that per 1,000 women, Black women leads the charge in first divorce rate by 26.8 women per 1,000, which is followed by native-born Hispanic, which is a 22.2 women per 1,000, followed by white women at 13.5 women, followed by foreign-born Hispanic women, which is at 13.2, and coming at last, which is Asian women at 8.5 women per 1,000 women having a first divorce. So, effects of single parenthood. Families with children under the age of 18 that are raised by one parent with a mother or a father qualifies as a single parent family. And the United States has a commanding lead on the rest of the world when it comes to the rate of single parent households. In the article, National Single Parents Day, which was written on March 21st, 2021 by the U.S. Census Bureau, states, quote, almost a quarter of U.S. children under the age of 18 live with no parent and no other adult, which is 23%. In comparison, 3% of children in China, 4% of children in Nigeria, and around 5% of children in India live in the single-parent households. In neighboring Canada, the share is of 15%. So, children with single parents are also more likely to grow up in a lower income household, and they tend to be neglected by their parents, as the parent is majorly focused on providing housing and food. And due to the neglection, in an article written by Michaela Duffer, John Hoffman, and Lance Erickson, titled Single Parenthood and Adolescent Sexual Outcomes, it states that due to the neglection, children from single parenthood families tend to be at a higher risk of earlier sexual intercourses. And other than that, children with single parent family are more likely to abuse substance and cause self-harm. Alongside that, depression is another major factor that is found in single parenthood families, not just for the kids, but for the parent as well. And in the article, Single Parent Family Causes Juvenile Crime derived from U.S. Department of Justice, written by R.L. McGinnis, children from single parent families are more likely to have behavioral problems because they tend to lack economic security and adequate time with the parents. We see that there are some positive effects on kids and the parents as well, which concludes for their relationship being stronger. They have a higher sense of responsibility, individuality, and maturity, and they tend to be closer with their extended family if and only if they're supportive of the extended family is supportive of their single parent family. And in no way a single parent family is a negative or a positive thing, but stats show that the single parent family tend to have much more negative effects on people. Moving on to single mothers and single motherhood. From assessing the impact of welfare reform on single mother by Brookings Institute, we find out 37.8% of single mothers are divorced, 41% were never married, and only 6.5% were widows. According to the same source, women are more single mother families are more likely to be victim of poverty, and children are more likely to have juvenile behaviors. Up to 72% of juvenile murderers and 60% of rapists can come from single mother families. 71% of teachers and 90% of law enforcement officials state the lack of parental supervision at home is a major factor that contributes to the violence in schools. And 61% of elementary students and 76% of secondary children agree with this assessment. As we continue to look at the effects of fatherlessness on teens, 63% of all youth suicides come from single mother families. 72% of all teen pregnancies come from single mother families. 70% of all substance abusers. 80% of all prison inmates, and 90% of all homeless and runaway children. Keep in mind, these are all teens, not the entire population. Other than that, single mothers lead the number of single parent households. 3 in every 4 single parent household is led by a single mother. Due to the custody trend, which tend to roll over to women's side about 84% of the time. All right, continuing to single fatherhood. Due to the lack of numbers of families with single fathers, there isn't a lot of quantitative data that we can derive and say a conclusive statement about. But 52% of households that don't have mother living with her children are divorced, separated, or widowed and living with just a father. Moving on to the effects of single fathers. There isn't enough quantitative data, to make conclusive statements on whether having a single father is a negative or a positive thing to have. We do notice that fathers tend to be more depressed after their significant other leaves. However, they're also more likely to have a new move-in partner much faster and much more often than women, which could be for the better or for the worse for the kids, as they do have a chance of having a female figure there to guide them. But also, it could affect them negatively, as the loss of their mother and the quick changeover can cause hatred towards the father and the new stepmom or the move-in girlfriend, whoever, which tends to make them more timid, anxious, and much more, to themselves, which in turn causes them to have depression and all sorts of negative effects. One of the major things we look at is that only 7% of single fathers have graduated with a college degree, and almost 20% of them have failed to graduate from high school. This shows that education has a direct correlation between the single fatherhood rates. Children who there's an increased level of fear and anxiety that is present with children with motherlessness. Children who come from motherless homes have a higher risk of isolation because they're uncomfortable around other children who speak about their mothers. There's a higher risk of future abuse and abandonment occurring at the hands of children who come from a motherless home. Adolescent girls have a hard time figuring out their bodies and the changes they go through unless their father has a medical background. And that would comprise all the effects that I have researched for single fatherhood. And keep in mind, a lot of the results that come up is a 50-50, which makes it harder for anyone to derive a conclusive statement. In conclusion, we learned that single parent family numbers are steadily increasing due to the increase in premarital sex and divorce rates. Single mother kids tend to be much more juvenile, aggressive, while the single father kids tend to be much more anxious and insecure, which would explain some of the things they end up doing in their lives. And as the final point, I would like to say single parent families are not incomplete. They have their own struggles like everyone else. And I really like this quote: being a single parent is twice the work, twice the stress, and twice the tears, but also twice the hugs, twice the loves, and twice the pride. And this was my informative speech on single parenthood. Thank you. Again, my name is Lakshay. We talked about single parenthood. Then we dig deeper into single mother statistics, then single father statistics, and then we talked about how it adds up all together. Thank you.